Sarah's voice cut through the ambient cafe noise like a jagged blade. I don't know why I even agreed to see you, David. Look at yourself. You're wearing the same faded, cheap suit you wore 3 years ago. It's absolutely pathetic. She didn't lower her voice. She wanted the people at the nearby tables to hear, to know exactly who she was rejecting. David sat perfectly still, his hands clasped firmly beneath the edge of the mahogany table, masking the way his fingers were trembling. His heart was a frantic bird against his ribs, not from fear, but from the crushing weight of the charade he had orchestrated. For 3 long years, David had played the part of the struggling, failed architect, a man barely scraping by on odd jobs, living in a cramped studio apartment. It was a test, a brutal, calculated test to see if Sarah, the woman who had abandoned him the exact moment his first startup went bankrupt, had ever truly loved him, or if she was only ever in love with the idea of a high-status partner. "I'm sorry you feel that way, Sarah," he murmured, his voice carefully devoid of emotion. He maintained eye contact, watching for even a flicker of regret or kindness. There was none. "I've been working on a new project. It's finally starting to take shape. I thought maybe, given our history, we could try again." Sarah let out a sharp, mocking laugh that made the barista turn his head. "Try again? With you? David, look at the reality. You have absolutely nothing to offer. You're a waste of potential. Honestly, I'm already seeing someone else. Someone who actually has a future. Someone who isn't drowning in debt." She was talking about Marcus, his former business partner, the very man who had sabotaged his first company, stolen his proprietary designs, and left David with nothing but a mountain of lawsuits. Marcus was now the golden boy of the industry, sitting comfortably on the executive board of the firm Sarah worked for. Just then, David's phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a discreet, high-priority vibration. He knew who it was. It was his lead assistant, calling from a secure office in London, confirming the final signature on the hostile takeover of Marcus's parent company. David stared at his ex-girlfriend. He was about to absorb the entire firm Marcus worked for. He had the power to fire everyone involved, to dismantle their luxurious lives, and to strip away the stolen glory Marcus relied on, all with a single, authorized keystroke. "You're right," David said, his voice dropping an octave, a slow, predatory smile creeping across his face. "I suppose I do have nothing to offer." He stood up, towering over the table. Before he turned to leave, he leaned in close, his voice a whisper that made Sarah freeze. "Enjoy your dinner, Sarah, because I promise you, by tomorrow morning, everything you think you have, your job, your boyfriend, your future, will be absolutely gone." He walked out of the restaurant, ignoring her furious, sputtering reaction. Outside, the rain had started, but David barely felt it. His phone rang again. It was his head lawyer. "Mr. Vance? The papers are signed. The firm is ours." David smirked. The trap was set. Now, he just had to watch to see if she would come running back, when she realized the billionaire she actually wanted was the man she had just insulted. The morning air in the boardroom of Vance Dynamics, formerly known as Sterling and Associates, felt thinner than usual, charged with a static electricity that made the fine hairs on Sarah's arms stand up. She sat beside Marcus, watching him adjust his cufflinks with a smug, self-satisfied grin. They were finalizing the presentation for the project that was supposed to secure their promotion to the board. "It's in the bag, Sarah," Marcus whispered, leaning in closer than was professional. "By lunch, we'll be managing the entire firm's portfolio. I've already put a deposit down on that yacht I told you about." Sarah smiled, but it felt brittle. Her mind kept drifting back to the previous night in the cafe. David's words, "Everything you think you have will be absolutely gone," kept replaying in her mind, a discordant melody. She pushed it aside. David was nothing. He was broke, bitter, and irrelevant. The man beside her was the one with the power. The boardroom door swung open, not with the gentle tap of an assistant, but with a sharp, authoritative bang. A man Sarah didn't recognize, a sleek, sharp-featured man in an Italian suit, walked to the head of the table. Behind him, two security guards stood with arms crossed, scanning the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," the stranger began, his voice devoid of warmth, "please cease all operations immediately. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the firm has been acquired in a total hostile takeover. My name is Arthur Vance, and I am the representative for the new owner." A murmur of confusion and panic rippled through the room. Marcus jumped to his feet, his face reddening. "This is preposterous. We have a board meeting. Who is this new owner? We have contracts, clauses." Arthur held up a hand, silencing him instantly. "The contracts have been reviewed and voided. The new owner has been observing your operations for months. He is not interested in the current leadership structure. In fact, his first order of business is the immediate removal of the executive team responsible for the recent misappropriation of company funds." Sarah felt a cold dread sink into the pit of her stomach. She looked at Marcos, who was trembling, his bravado rapidly evaporating. "Who is it?" Marcos demanded, his voice cracking. "Who bought us out?" Arthur pulled a sleek, black tablet from his briefcase and tapped the screen, projecting a live feed onto the main screen behind him. It showed the main lobby downstairs. "The owner," Arthur said, "is someone many of you already know very well." The lobby doors opened, and a man stepped out of a sleek black car. He was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that cost more than Marcus's entire wardrobe. He didn't look like the struggling architect anymore. His posture was commanding, his eyes scanning the building with an air of absolute possession. He looked directly into the lobby camera, and it was as if he were looking directly at Sarah through the screen. It was David. The room went deathly silent. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face, leaving her lightheaded. Beside her, Marcus had collapsed back into his chair, his jaw hanging open, his face ashen. "David," Sarah gasped, the name barely audible. That's not possible." As the elevator dinged, signaling his arrival on the top floor, Arthur looked at them with a thin, cruel smile. "Mr. Vance is here for his first meeting. I suggest you all gather your belongings. Your access keys have been deactivated." The elevator doors opened, and David stepped out, flanked by his legal team. He didn't even glance at the other board members. His eyes locked onto Marcus, then shifted to Sarah. He paused, his expression perfectly unreadable, as he walked slowly toward the head of the table, his footsteps echoing in the silence like the ticking of a countdown clock. He reached the table and laid his hand on the mahogany surface, right where she had been sitting the night before. "Morning," he said, his gaze fixed on a petrified Sarah. "I told you, didn't I?" The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the sharp, rhythmic clicking of David's pen against the table. Marcus looked as though he might physically collapse. "David, please," Marcus stammered, his usual polished demeanor shattered. It was just business. You know how the industry is. Everyone plays the game." "The game you played involved embezzling funds, Marcus," David said, his voice quiet, almost conversational, which somehow made it more terrifying. He flipped open the black tablet, displaying a series of clear, damning financial documents on the projector screen for everyone in the room to see. "I didn't just buy this company to take over. I bought it because I needed to clean it up. Starting with you." Marcus blanched, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Before he could utter another desperate defense, David gestured to the security guards. "Get him out of my sight, and take the files to the authorities." As the guards hauled a protesting, frantic Marcus from the room, the focus shifted to Sarah. She was frozen, her gaze darting between the door and David. Her panic began to morph into something else, a calculated, desperate attempt at survival. She slowly stood up, her face softening into an expression of hurt innocence. "David," she whispered, her voice trembling, "a perfectly rehearsed performance. You have to understand. I was scared. When you failed, I didn't know what to do. I never stopped loving you, deep down. Can't we just start over? Forget all of this?" David watched her, not with anger, but with a profound, chilling indifference. He remembered how she had laughed at his pain in the restaurant just the night before, how she had called him pathetic. He looked at her not as the woman he had loved, but as a hollow shell of greed, a lesson he had finally learned. "You aren't sad that you lost me, Sarah," David said, his voice cold. "You're just sad that you lost the opportunity to be with someone you thought was rich. You don't love me. You love the position I happen to be standing in." He turned away from her, completely dismissing her presence. "Arthur, please escort Miss Sterling out, and make sure she is blacklisted from every subsidiary under the Vance Dynamics umbrella." Sarah's expression fractured. The mask of innocence slipped, revealing the raw, ugly fury underneath. "You can't do this. I am the best executive you have," she screamed, her composure finally breaking as the guards moved toward her. As she was guided out, her voice echoing in the hallway, David sat in the center seat, the seat that had once been his dream and was now just another asset in his portfolio. He looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below, finally seeing it not as a battlefield he had to conquer, but as the world he now stood above. He was no longer the architect of his own misery. He was the master of his own fate. The test was over, and he had passed, leaving behind everything that was never truly worth the struggle.
They laughed while I sat in silence, hands folded under the table. Every word became a scar, but I kept my breathing stable. You saw the suit, not the man. You saw the fall, not the fight. You called me empty in the open, but I was building in the night. I swallowed every insult, I let the moment burn. Some people only love the crown, not the heart that had to earn. So let the room go quiet, let the truth walk through the door. The man you thought was broken does not live there anymore. Let the glass walls tremble, let the proud ones lose their name. I did not come for shouting, I came to end the game. Slow piano continues, a deep bass note rises, soft strings grow wider at a faint ticking sound, like a countdown in a boardroom. You smiled beside a liar, thinking gold could hide the stain, but stolen dreams steal shadows, and shadows speak through pain. I watched from far in silence, I learned who bowed to greed while they were drinking from my losses. I was planting every seed. By morning, doors were closing, keys no longer turned. The empire they were holding was the fire where they burned. So let the room go quiet, let the truth walk through the door. The man you thought was broken does not live there anymore. Let the glass walls tremble, let the proud ones lose their name. I did not come for shouting, I came to end the game. Do not cry because you lost me, do not beg because I rose. You love the shine around me, not the wounds nobody knows. I needed one last answer, one last look into your eyes. And when you chose the money, I finally saw the light. And now let the city witness, let the silence crown the pain. I walked in wearing thunder after standing in the rain. The seat is cold and empty, but my heart is not the same. I did not come for shouting, I came to end the game. Soft piano fades, slow strings hold one final note. Rain sound returns quietly. The ending should feel calm, powerful, and final, like a man looking over the city after surviving betrayal.